John 6:45. Estin gegramenon in tois prophetais, kai esantai pantes didactoi theou, pas ha acusas paratu patras kai mathon erketai pras eme. Here Jesus continues speaking to this hostile and skeptical audience, this crowd, and he says, "It is written in the prophets," and we notice this perfect use of grapho, frequently used to introduce a scripture quotation in the New Testament. Notice the reduplication, notice the men morpheme, so that tells us this is, think about men sitting in the middle of the pew, men sitting in the middle of the pew being passive, not doing their part. This is going to be a middle passive participle, and with that reduplication, it's going to be a perfect middle passive, and within the context, passive. Perfect passive participle, and this is a neuter nominative singular. It's part of a periphrastic construction that is a form of a me plus the participle. It's implied in personal subject it. It is written in the prophets, and all implied of them, all of them will be taught of God, or taught by God. Probably this theou should be understood as a genitive of agency, a genitive expressing agency. All of them will be taught by God. This is, of course, a quotation of Isaiah 54:13. All of them will be taught by God. The of them is implied. And then we have this other statement Jesus makes. All of this here is a big subject, what I'm highlighting in blue. This person comes to me, Jesus says. Who is the person that comes to him? Everyone who hears, or perhaps everyone who heard from the Father and learned, implied from him, comes to me. We have two participles here, akousos and mathon. They're both aorist participles. This one, very obviously, this other one has a present participle ending, but it's building on the second aorist stem of manthano. You may remember the second aorist of manthano is emathon, so that stem is moth. Both aorist participles, both nominative masculine singular, both governed by this one article. The one who heard and learned. The one who heard, and then modified by pas. Everyone who heard and learned. If you look at the translations, you'll see that the Net Bible judges that perhaps these participles should be taken as gnomic, as Murray Harris also argues. So they translate them, everyone who hears from the Father and learns, implied from him, comes to me. But most English translations translate them as temporally prior to this coming. Most English translations say everyone who heard from the Father and learned, implied from him, comes to me. That is a question. The time of the participle is really a question of literary context more than it is the participle form itself. The form itself is aorist, describing the action simply or perfectively, holistically, but the time frame of it, whether it should be translated as a present, gnomic, aorist participle, or as a previous activity in the past, is determined by literary context.